Studios production. Alright, this is going to be the quiz video for Chapter 9 of the ITGS textbook, Business and Employment. Same introduction as all the other quiz videos. Having read the chapter and all of its details, it's time to test how well you know the content through a series of questions straight from the textbook. As always, questions presented first, then answers later. So record your answers to the questions as they come, and then compare to what the video says is correct. Without further ado, question 1. This has 5 different prompts related to issues discussed in the chapter. The first one is, are there any particular occupations for which employee monitoring would be essential? Second, discuss whether it should be required by law to inform employees that they are being monitored. Third question, discuss whether employees should have a right to privacy when they use their personal email at work. The fourth part, to what extent do you think monitoring employees improves their productivity? And finally, the fifth part, to what extent are the different types of employee monitoring acceptable in an office environment? Go ahead and take whatever time you need to answer those questions. Okay, the second question, very short. Explain 2 benefits of an online bill payment for the customer and 2 benefits for the utility company. Go ahead and record your answers. Okay, and the third question is a multi-part. So, part A, define the term key logger and describe 2 items which might be present on a company's intranet. Part B, explain 3 clauses that a company may use in its acceptable use policy. Part C, justify the decision to use employee monitoring software. Go ahead and record your answers. Okay, so the responses to the 5 prompts for question 1. Question A wanted to know, are there any jobs that might require employee monitoring? Perhaps jobs which require dangerous work, in which case the safety of the employees is a constant concern, in which case they should be consistently modified. The next question was whether or not employees, it should be required by law that employees be notified if they're being monitored. Employees have the right to know whether or not they are being monitored, and if so, what about them is being monitored? In fact, knowing this may force employees to act within the rules. If employees know they're being watched, then they're obviously, they might even be, less tempted to do anything wrong than they would be if they didn't know. The third part was about the right to privacy for workers with their own email. Since it is their own email, the company cannot control it and should respect the privacy. And so one common workaround for a lot of companies is they give them a company email that they can only use when they're in the workplace. And that really sort of bypasses that little principle, because if it's a company's email, the company can obviously monitor it. Okay. Fourth part, the effects on productivity. Since the sheer fact of being monitored is enough to convince employees not to do anything wrong and to stay on task, it can be argued that monitoring has a positive effect on productivity. And then it wanted an analysis of all the different types of employee monitoring. This depends highly on the situation. For instance, desktop monitoring software could only be used depending on what it is the employees are using the desktop for, and alongside that, how often the desktop is being used. Okay, part 2. This wanted 2 benefits to the customer and to the utility company of an online bill payment. For the customer, this allows them to pay their bills from the comfort of their own home without having to make a special trip to their bank to pay. That's always a plus. It also gives them the security of not having to bring things like their credit cards outside of their home and risk losing them. For the company, the bill payments will be made on time more often, and digital transactions are much easier to organize and record. And the third question, so the answer for part A. A keylogger is a device that is meant to record all of the keystrokes a person makes when using a computer, whether that be by connecting to the keyboard port or by running as a software keylogger in the background. Then the second part wanted things on a company's intranet. Most of the things on a company's intranet would be related to the most sensitive information of the company or its important web pages. Part B wanted clauses for an acceptable use policy. Clauses related to the rules that might restrict what web pages and websites employees can use, what type of media they can access, and what information they do and do not have the right to view and or share. And then C wanted a justification of employee monitoring, and anything along the lines of employee monitoring boosting employee productivity, helps protect company information, helps keep workers on task, and helps secure company data, anything along those lines.